Hi, good afternoon, and welcome back to Insurance 101. Today I want to discuss an umbrella policy. An umbrella policy goes over and beyond the limits of liability that you would have on your primary policies, such as your home, your auto, your renters, condos policies, even your boat policies. So let's say, for example, okay, you have $700,000 worth of assets. You want to make sure that no one comes and they're able to take those things which you have worked so hard for. So an umbrella policy, they actually require that you carry certain underlying limits prior to that umbrella policy kicking in. So you would have to exhaust the limits of liability that would be on the primary policy. So let's say, for example, that the umbrella carrier says you have to carry $300,000 for your auto policy for that combined single limit $300,000, then the umbrella would then kick in. So if you have $700,000 worth of assets and your auto insurance policy only covers you for $300,000 for that entire accident, but yet someone is suing you for more than that $300,000, where do you get that remaining of the money from? That's where your umbrella policy now comes into play, and it will protect any assets that you basically have. So that's why I always tell people, when you actually go and sit down to negotiate what your coverages are, you do not buy your policy based off of what is the cheapest, because most of the time the cheapest will not cover for anything. It's almost like, for example, I will never sit here and pick my mate based off of who is the cheapest. No, if he decides that he's not going to do anything for me and he wants to be thrift and cheap all the time, then I've got to go. Meaning, chances are you're not going to be able to cover me when it's time and I need help for something. So just think about your insurance policy almost like that. It's sometimes better than a mate. I'm going to tell you that now. So your umbrella policy basically goes over and beyond the limits, like I said, of liability that you would carry on those underlying policies. Now, most insurance companies that write umbrella policies, they will require you to have a limit of 300,000 or 500,000 liability, which would be on the home. And then on the auto, most of them will make you carry for a split limit 250,000 per person, 500,000 per accident. And if you decided to do a combined single limit, most of them will actually tell you that you would have to have, I believe, 300,000 or greater. But again, when it comes to any insurance laws, you always want to make sure that you check in your state, sit down with your local broker, the one that you trust that actually knows what he or she might be talking about, and that you know that they've actually have acquired this knowledge and they're just not spitting it out just to make money. Okay, so things that an umbrella policy would cover, but you might not know would be included in your umbrella policy. So you'd have coverage for your defense costs from any lawsuits that your primary policy or the homeowner's insurance policy actually would not pay for. But yet, if you actually injure someone seriously, let's say you get into, let me back that up. If you get into a car accident and you now injure someone seriously and you have $300,000 worth of liability, like the accident I had gotten into where someone T-boned me and they hit me and my rotator cuff was torn and I had to have so many surgeries, so on and so forth. Now, at this particular point in time, he had no assets. So if he had assets and he had no umbrella policy, you're messing with me. I'm going to now sue you, get a judgment, and attach myself onto your home. But let's say that you have no home, because what I did was I sued him, got a judgment, and attached myself to his future earnings. So you see, you can be tied to someone for a very long time that you don't even want to be tied to. This is almost worse than getting a divorce. So that's why I say, make sure that your coverages are going to work for you. You don't want to be tied to anyone for the rest of your life where they're sucking off of your wages that you're working what so hard for. So now you get into an accident and now you have, your assets, your future assets are now, your future wages are garnished and now your assets are called into question. So other kinds of legal damages. An umbrella insurance policy protects you from being sued for also libel or slander, written or spoken words that can cause injury to someone else, and it can also protect you against suits for false arrests, malicious prosecution, violation of privacy, and a variety of other different civil suits that I don't want to get into, but these are things that would be covered underneath your umbrella policy. I want to say it also covers your legal fees, okay? So some insurance policies won't even cover your legal fees. However, your umbrella policy will. So a perk of the umbrella policy is that it takes care of your legal fees and your court costs and a lawsuit. So you want to make sure that when you're sitting down talking to your broker that these things are definitely covered. Now, an umbrella policy does not cover malpractice, workers' comp, damages caused by a business or any business-related activity, damage that you cause intentionally to a person or a person's property. So that's why we call it insurance, because insurance are here for accidents and not on purposes. Okay, so if you're looking to figure out how much is the rate for an umbrella policies are fairly inexpensive. So it costs you about, I want to say, if you have $1 million worth of coverage, for the first $1 million for the year, depending on what type of things you might have covered. But let's say you got your basic umbrella policy, which would consist of usually 2 cars, 2 drivers, 1 home. That might run you, I want to say, maybe about $300 to $400 for the entire year, depending on who writes the policy. And then if you decided that you needed an additional, let's say, $1 million, I think for an additional $1 million, it might cost you maybe $100 a year for an additional $1 million. But again, check with your insurance company that writes it. But this is, it's a fairly inexpensive policy. So there are some restrictions on an umbrella policy. I don't want to say restrictions. I want to say there are some factors into actually determining the rate for your umbrella policy. So the type of job that you actually work. So if you actually happen to be a high profile political person, you might have a little bit of a problem getting an umbrella policy, or we might just have to write you within a different market, but we can get you coverage. The type of job that you actually do is number one, like I said, even some of your hobbies. So let's say that you are a person who is always into these extreme sporting events and things of that nature, and you're I want to say a BMX rider or motorcycle rider, and you do this all the time for fun. That might change your rate a little, because now you're almost like a little higher risk. And it also depends on what type of pets that you have. So we have something in the insurance company. We have, I want to say, they call it a dog exclusion list. I call it a hot dog list. So basically, if you're on that list, I can't write you because of certain aggressions and bite history of the dog. So those are things that they take into consideration. So they also look at if you've been involved in an accident within the past 5 years. You're likely to actually pay a premium, a little slightly higher premium as a result of that. Anyone that might be underneath the age of 25 in the home, because you got to think about it. Insurance is based upon statistics, so it is statistically proven that people of a certain age get into more accidents than someone that might be my age. They will also take into consideration any type of previous lawsuits that you might have had, because if you've actually been involved in all different kind of lawsuits, people are always suing you, then that suggests that you're kind of a high risk, and you just might want to think about what you're doing and why you're always in some trouble. But maybe I could say that to myself, but that's a different video. So again, this is an umbrella policy, and these are the things that they would cover. If if you have any questions in regards to how an umbrella policy works, if you want to know what might be covered, what might not be covered, or if you just have any insurance questions in general, just please go ahead and just shoot me an email. You can drop a comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that notification button so you'll know anytime I upload another video. Again, I'm sorry that I'm putting this video out so late. I've just been running around. As you can see, I'm actually on my way to the gym again. But again, I do thank you so much for watching. And again, if you have any questions or anything of that nature, please feel free to leave me a comment. And again, just make sure that you like and subscribe. And I just want to always, please, 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 these are New York State insurance coverages, but most coverages do actually work the same. But just sit down and talk to your insurance broker. Do your own research to make sure that these coverages that I'm suggesting, they're going to be the best fit for you and your family. So I want to say have a great day.